Bumpus in the house. How are you doing, Kayla? Thank you so much for coming up. Where are you? Are you at home? Are you in the courthouse? Where are you at?
I'm at home. I did not leave. I thought about it. I said, I'm not going to that.
Wait, you're at home. You're in Atlanta, or are you in
No,
Houston?
I'm in Houston.
Oh, she was like, man, I ain't even forget that. She went back to Texas. Shout out to Whitney. So you had your attorneys in there, and they were ready to go. I'm assuming that you saw the judge's pronouncement here today. What are some of the things that stuck out for you? Some of the things that you noticed, and how do you feel about this? Somebody write Kayla in the dang chat. Yes, Kayla. What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna say the thing that stands out to me the most is it's very funny to me because it's like one of those things where you just can't be wrong. So you go look at video footage to see who I'm talking to. I could be talking about my kids, if that's the case, he needs to pull the video footage from every day I'm in the courthouse and on floor one and see, do I not speak to those people every time I'm in the courthouse?
100%.
Yes. Do you feel a sense of relief? Because because there was a hearing scheduled for the 8th, and he specifically intended, it looks like, to decide whether you were going to go to oh, did we lose you? I know everybody's blowing up your phone. I know everybody blowing up your phone, Kayla. It looked like at that hearing, can you hear me? I'll just keep talking. Hopefully you can hear me while you're getting your video worked out. It looked like he was intending on deciding whether you were going to be incarcerated or not. And now it looks like he has done away with that hearing. Is that what you kind of understood? Kind of what's your understanding of what he did in terms of your hearing on the 8th?
It was on the 3rd.
Oh, the 3rd.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it was the 3rd.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I still, like I said, like the fact that he says anything about this video, took judicial notice of this video surveillance is really crazy to me. Because I don't know what its relevance was. If you knew you were going to dismiss it. So it kind of gives me the impression that he didn't want to let it go, but he felt like he had to.
Yeah.
Yes.
That did come out of nowhere, that he would bring in that
and
piece of footage.
And it had nothing to do with anything else that he said.
Right. Not at all. It didn't follow the string of cases. It didn't follow, the decisions. But I wonder if that pressure from Friday kind of led to this right now. But to your point, why did he bring up the footage? Did it have audio? And to your point, like, people in the courthouse talk to each other all the time.
100%. All right, Kayla. All right, Miss Bumpus. Now, listen now. The judge has already said, listen, you free. I can't keep doing this. The Supreme Court's on my ass. They've already assigned a new judge to this, to some of y'all's motion to recuse. So y'all got it. All right. You show up on a Monday to represent Woody, and Woody's there, and you just show up, and you're trying to make sure that Woody testifies so that there's no contempt issues. And then early in the morning, you get a notice that, hey, there's going to be a meeting in Judge Glanville's chambers. How did that go down?
Well, it didn't go like that. It went, I showed up to the courtroom, and then they walked me up to chambers.
You got escorted up there. All right, you had your own escort. Who escorted you up there? Was it the security officers or who?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. No, don't freeze up on me now. Okay, come on back, Kayla. Come on back. We need you, baby. We need to find out what happened, because now Kayla can talk free. Somebody write Kayla in the chat. All right, she back. Kayla, we need you. Yeah, there she go. All right. We back.
Okay. So what did you ask me? You said after. Okay, go ahead.
No, you're right. So you go into the courtroom and you're there to cover for another attorney, an excellent attorney. You just show up to make sure, hey, nothing goes wrong. He testifies, and then that's it. And then someone comes up to you and says that you're going to be escorted to the judge's chambers. How did that work?
Just like that. I actually didn't make it in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
I called because I was running a few minutes late. And they told me, don't worry about it. Just call when I got in the courthouse. So when I got in the courthouse, I was never went in the courtroom, and I was probably the first person there. I mean, I guess, they know the culture of the courtroom, but I know how he is as far as timing, but I didn't want to be late. So I was still on time, but I was still the first person there. So no one saw me when I got there, and they just took me straight upstairs.
Okay. So had you ever been in Judge Glanville's chambers before?
I can't remember. Probably so. I don't know.
Okay. Because you actually worked for the district attorney's office in Atlanta as well, right? So you're well accustomed with that courthouse and how it's laid out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so you go to the judge's chambers. Then what happens?
Then his chambers is set up. It's very similar to like an office suite. So we were just in like a sitting area, and we were having casual conversation and, just talking. And then somehow we ended up in the actual chambers at the table.
Okay. So when you first got in there, who was in there with you?
It was just me and Simone.
And Simone is ADA
Hilton.
Okay. And then other people started filing in?
Yeah.
All right. And so you're sitting there talking with Miss Hilton, and then other people start coming in. And then what happens from there?
And then, well, see, it's an interesting in and out, because then Simone has to go handle a matter. So she leaves and Adrian comes in. And when Adrian before we go back there, Adrian comes in and all of us are out there and we're just talking about, everything, life, nothing about the case at all, just life. And then we go back into the chambers, and I guess there's kind of this procedural conversation as to how we got here with Adrian. Simone's not there.
Who's Adrian? Adrian Love, the ADA?
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you said that there was some procedural talk, what was that about specifically?
Like just how we got there, me standing in, what happened between her and Melnick on Friday, that kind of conversation.
Oh, got you. Because they were expecting Melnick, but then Melnick let the court know that he had a conflict. And so you were there. And guys, this is totally, totally common. All attorneys do it. Unfortunately, we cannot be in two places at once. So if we get jammed up and we have a conflict, we ask one of our friends who is an attorney just to go and cover for us. So in this case, Attorney Melnick had a conflict. He informed the judge about that. The judge said that, hey, you still have to show up. So he asked Kayla to cover. And Kayla has covered for Melnick many times and vice versa. And as an attorney, you really need good relationships with people, with attorneys who can cover for you. So she showed up just to cover for Melnick, just to make sure that Woody was okay. And then he testified and that he was going to testify, right? And then what happened, Kayla? So y'all are talking about how you were on the case, okay? And then what?
So it was always my understanding that I was really just supposed to be there because that's the only place that I could talk to Woody. So I was always sitting there thinking that I was just waiting on him to be brought up, because that was going to be my first time speaking with him.
Gotcha.
To see what his decision was going to be, whether he was going to testify or stay in the status of pleading the fifth.
Okay. And I think the judge mentioned that as well, that everybody kind of showed up thinking that this meeting was going to take place, but then Woody was late. And so they were pretty much just waiting for Woody, and everybody wanted to know exactly what you said, if Woody was going to testify. So Woody showed up late. So everybody was just kind of killing time. It really
wasn't that he was. I guess he was late, but that's because he was not at Fulton County Jail. which is why I was not able to speak with him before that day. Over the
Got
weekend, I wasn't able to speak with him because I didn't know where he was.
Okay. And he had you already have a previous legal relationship with Woody in that you've represented him a few times in the past. So you guys know each other. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so then y'all are just kind of killing time waiting for Woody to come to the courthouse. And then Woody gets to the courthouse. All right. What happens then?
And then he comes in, and I guess, Glanville does this, whatever he calls what he takes judicial notice of, where he gives the timeline of what happened. So pretty much what he says is about the truth. I talked to him, but I don't really remember what he said the timeline was, but there was lots of back and forth, in and out, back and forth. Like some things he stepped out on because the state didn't want him to hear. And sometimes everybody stepped out just so me and Woody could talk.
Oh, this is interesting. So
I
first,
actually wrote down the timeline. Sorry to interject, Weed.
No,
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
go through
Yeah.
it, Kayla, just so we can do this accurately. Because
Mhm.
he talked about everything starting at 10:03. That's when Woody arrived, right? And then from 10:17 to 11:28, apparently you and Woody had a private meeting.
I
Is
don't
that
agree with
accurate?
that, but I can't remember.
Wow.
I mean, I
Wow.
just don't remember it being that long.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
that's about
That's
70
almost an
minutes.
hour. Like,
Yeah, it
no.
is. It's over an hour. It's over
No.
an hour. And then he said 11:31. That's what, so between 11:28 and 11:31, which is almost about 5 minutes, that's when everybody reconvened after y'all had a meeting. Then he said at 11:49, so about apparently the meeting left, or the meeting ended at 11:31, and then everyone left and went back to the courtroom at 11:49. So it seems like he's almost trying to slim down the time that everybody was in the room together. So,
The
as I
meeting
wrote
was
that
from
down,
9:30 to 11:49.
wow.
And,
Yeah.
there were in and out moments of everyone.
Mhm.
But the meeting was, I was like drained. It went on
Yeah.
for a long time.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you guys were in chambers. This never came out where you would, I guess some people would leave and allow other people to speak in more or less confidence. And then they would come back in and other people would leave. Is that right? People were coming in and out to let people speak privately?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you, this is very important. And this is kind of what I thought in the beginning, but you could, it kind of seemed like this wasn't the case. I thought because of the judge's initial posture and how angry that he was, that he had instructed everyone, this is my speculation, that he had instructed everyone that the contents of the meeting were to be private and that no one should talk about the meeting. Even the fact that the meeting itself took place should be private, because you saw how angry that the judge was when someone blew the whistle and it kind of got out. Did the judge at any point in time, but especially at the beginning, tell all of you guys not to talk about this meeting, that it would be secret, the contents of the meeting were not to be shared?
Well, no. And that's exactly why I kept saying, what am I in contempt of, when I came on a couple days ago? What's the contempt? I don't understand. You're mad because of what?
Right. If he never advised you guys of any type of confidentiality.
And Georgia law requires that if a judge wants to keep any type of hearings confidential, there has to be an order, whether it's oral or written. There has to be an order that specifies what has to be held confidential.
Okay. And so you're in there, and then Woody gets in there, and y'all are all in there talking. Now, there were some specific statements that were alleged to have been made in some of the motions to recuse. So, for example, Woody said allegedly that he was not going to testify and that he was willing to spend 2 years in jail not to testify in this case. Can you talk to us a little bit about that statement? Was it made? Kind of what was your feeling about it when you heard it?
When I heard it originally, or when I heard it recited?
When you heard it originally and at the hearing, I'm sorry, at the meeting.
I mean, he just was confused about what was going on. I do agree to a certain extent that the meeting was held to explain to him what immunity was,
Mm-hmm.
and the type of immunity that he was given. But I just think that in the process of it, there was information that came out, which then gave the defense a right to know about.
Mm. Did it seem odd to you when you looked around the room? I think at one point you mentioned that there were 14 people in the room. Did it seem odd to you that there were no defense counsels in the room?
Well, like I said, it was all happening so fast, and I think it was actually maybe 12 or 13. I can't remember the exact number because I couldn't remember how
Mm-hmm.
many deputies. But like I said, even though it was 2 hours, it was happening so fast, and I really didn't even get to think about that. I was just there for him. You know, he was
Mm-hmm.
asking me questions. He was so concerned about what was going on, and you know, I was just really there for him. But also, it never gave the impression that it was a secret meeting either.
Got you. And let me give a big shout out to Talk That Law. Thank you so much, Talk That Law. Blessing the chat with this super generous super chat. And you had Talk That Law as an attorney as well here on YouTube, excellent content creator. And you had talked to him as well about this case, right? Everybody's wanted to know what was going on. Let me show you this. This is one of the documents from the motion to recuse. And it says here that upon information and belief, Judge Glanville informed Woody that Judge Glanville could keep Woody incarcerated until additional defendants were tried. So, you know, when you hear this, did this kind of, what did you think when you heard Judge Glanville say, hey, it's not just 2 years, it could be way longer if you don't testify?
Well, I'm gonna say this. That was always what was told to me. Well, no, the word used was indefinitely. And I kept
Mm,
asking, you know, what is indefinitely? Before he got there, I kept asking him if he wants to stay. I know him, and I know his question is gonna be, how long do I have to stay in jail?
Yeah.
And so can you guys just tell me that, so when I have my meeting with him, I can just tell him this is the situation. And so when he got there, the first thing he said is, how long I gotta sit? And I said, they're saying indefinitely. And so he's like, what? And I will say that that was definitely a turning point in the meeting. I don't know.
mm.
So I guess is Judge Glanville releasing the transcript to everyone?
Yeah, it's going to be made publicly available and it's going to be the full transcript.
So
Yes, it
I
could
don't
be
know. I
everything.
mean, if you would be open to waiting till that is filed and then we can just go through it together.
100%.
Um,
Ms. Bumpus, we could do anything you want, baby. We could do it, anything you want. And that would be instructive to kind of go
yeah.
through it, because I would love to see what exactly was said. So you guys have this meeting. So we'll talk about exactly what the meeting, what the contents of the meeting were when the transcript comes out. Because again, like you mentioned, the meeting was over 2 hours. A lot of stuff
Right.
was said. People were
Yeah.
going in and out. So anybody's memory is going to miss some stuff, but we have that transcript. So that's going to be amazing. Now, you leave out of that meeting once the meeting ends, and you go, I guess, downstairs, and Woody starts to testify. Wait,
Hmm.
no, how does it go? That was
That's
that
what
Monday.
happens.
Oh, he testifies. And
Hmm.
then Brian Steele makes a motion that same day and talks about the fact that there was this secret meeting, and the judge just loses it and starts interrogating him. Who told you? Who told you? Who told you? Do you know who told Brian Steele about the meeting?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. Were you the person who told someone about the meeting that it got back to Brian Steele, or like the judge was trying to find out who the leak was, basically?
Well, I don't know exactly who the leak was, but what I'm going to say is I didn't even have a chance to tell anyone anything because we literally came from that meeting into the courtroom and he started testifying. So I had to sit there to make sure he was okay. When we went on when we went on break or whatever, I did have a conversation with all of the attorneys, and I say that because I was caught on camera, so
Right. You on camera, and the judges already said, hey, we're not going to go down this road anymore. It's fine. Kayla, I'm not going to put you in jail. It's fine. It's fine. No contempt.
It's fine.
So what you're saying that you were not the initial leak. Is that fair to say?
Right.
But then once Woody started testifying and then went on break, then you did have a conversation with the defense attorneys. How did that go down? Who was the first defense attorney that you approached to say, hey, let me talk to you for a second? How did that go?
Well, it went
and you on camera anyway, baby. So let's just talk about it now. Let's just talk about it. You on camera. The judge is already on game.
Right. So I mean, pretty much there were 4 attorneys right there that I spoke to them together. And of course, Attorney Steele was there, and Attorney Adams.
Attorney Steele, who else? Was it the ball? Oh, Adams. So the black co-counsel of Attorney Steele. And then who else? Was the bald white guy there?
Yeah, Max. And I think that might have been the only ones, but I talked to them on several occasions that day.
Okay. And the first time when you saw them there together and you go up to them or however it goes, kind of what was your initial communication to them or initial saying, just like, hey, there was a meeting, or how did it go down?
Well, they already knew.
Oh, they already knew about the meeting.
Yeah. So it was they didn't know everything, but they knew a lot.
Oh, okay. Because again, you weren't the initial leak. So there was already a leak. So they already knew.
Yeah.
And then you went up to them. And so did they start asking you questions or kind of how did that go?
Yeah, just went like, then I was able to talk to them and tell them, I guess, from a legal perspective, what happened. Because I was the only attorney there and definitely the only defense attorney. But I don't know who told them initially, but of course it wasn't a legal perspective.
Got you. So they start asking you questions. Now, when you talked to them, was this before Brian Steele made his announcement to the court that he knew that there was a secret meeting? So he talked to you, and then after, well, let's see if this is like this. First, he gets the information from a leak, from a source, from a whistleblower. Then after that, at some point, he talks to you and kind of confirms that actually there was this meeting. And then after that, he goes up to the microphone and addresses the court and asks the court about the meeting. Is that right?
That's right. And I remember as soon as he did it, I got up and I ran out of the courtroom.
You were like, I gotta get a haircut out of here. It's getting hot.
I remember it so bad because when he first got up there, I went outside and I don't think it's a secret that I know a lot of people involved on this case, a lot of the family and stuff, because I'm from Atlanta. And I pulled somebody to the side and I said, I'm about to be in trouble. And not because of I thought I did anything wrong, but because I said the only person he's going to think who did this is me. I knew that before it really went down. And then I said that I think I said that before Brian even got up, Attorney Steele got up. But I think he just said he had emotion. And then I went out the courtroom and I said, I think I'm about to be in trouble. Then when he got up there and he did all that, I never went back in the courtroom. I sat in the jury room and watched on YouTube.
She was in the courthouse watching the trial on YouTube.
I heard you were in the law and crime chat. I was like, really?
No, I was in Miss Sylvia chat.
Okay,
No,
got you,
Miss
got you.
Sylvia. Yeah. So when you heard that Brian was about to make that motion, you were like, I got to get up out of here.
Well, I
And
already knew what he was going to do, and I think he already he was willing to do whatever he needed to do. And he knew how Judge Glanville was going to respond, and he told me, straight up how Glanville was going to respond. And
oh, really?
mhm.
So he knew that Judge Glanville was going to press him about the identity.
I don't know if he knew that, but he knew he was going to be held in contempt.
Mm. And Brian Steele was prepared to be held in contempt. He was not going to reveal the source of the information.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so when you were talking to him and the few other attorneys outside the courtroom, how long did y'all talk more or less? Do you remember? Was it 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, something like
An
that?
hour.
Oh, an hour, man. So you were talking to him.
I was talking to him.
Wow. And
But
what was
and in all fairness, I did not think, and I still don't think that I was doing anything wrong.
correct? Correct. You were doing something that absolutely needed to be done, and you should be applauded for it. Somebody write Kayla in the chat, please, now, because we need this. There was going to be a grave injustice without these defense attorneys, talking to Kayla, getting the real information, talking to someone who was also a lawyer who could convey the legal kind of aspects of what was going on in that meeting. Were they surprised at some of the things that you were saying? Kind of what was their reaction to
They were angry.
Mm. Why were they angry?
Just from the information that was put in their motions, how they felt. They had very strong opinions about they should have known about the meeting.
Gotcha. And so then you talk to them for about an hour, more or less, somewhere around there. They go back into the courtroom, and then Brian Steele makes the motion, and you're like, all right, I'm going to get out of here. And so then after that, the judge says that he is going to incarcerate Brian Steele for not giving up the name of the mole, the whistleblower, the leak. And attorneys from Gactel kind of show up to represent him. And apparently there was word that there was some type of like a protest. 25 attorneys started coming down there mad about how things were going.
Well,
Mhm.
no, I was gone. I was gone because he had released Woody, like he said, at 5:58, I think, in his judicial notice or something.
Mhm.
And I left at that point. Like I said, I wasn't in the courtroom, but I was still in the courthouse because I knew I was not excused. But generally, once your client is excused, who wasn't my client anymore, and
Right.
I really can't wait till we get this transcript, because then I can really give you some tea for real.
Mhm.
But it just makes more sense to go in a chronological order so you can really understand how we get here instead of just jumping all over the place. But I say all that to say I left, and then I think it goes on for 2 hours. Now I haven't eaten all day.
Mm.
And I'm finally sitting down to eat, and my boyfriend, he's still watching. And
Oh, she got a boyfriend. So many people were asking. Look at AV.
Man, that was the most uncomfortable thing ever. I'm happy you said that, because watching him call somebody baby while I'm in the middle is a special kind of hell.
Oh, it didn't even like that. It didn't even like that. But everybody was like, what is her marital status? What's going on? Okay, guys. So she got a boyfriend. All right. So I'm glad you put that out there. All right. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but what were you saying?
he's still watching. I mean, he's watching still, and all of a sudden we hear Kayla, and where's Miss Bumpus? And I'm like, listen, I'm on the way to the airport. So I'm at a restaurant by the airport because I'm about to go. My business is done. He's on the stand. He said she's not excused. Make sure she's here at 9:30 in the morning. And I'm like, oh my God. My
Wow.
kids are in Houston. Like, I didn't make arrangements for any of this. So I'm like, oh my God. So, and then, like, it's very rare that if your client is excused, that you would stay past your client being there. And so for
Mhm.
him to say I wasn't excused was really, I knew right then, I knew what type of time he was about to be on.
You
And
knew
so
it. Mm-hmm.
And it's just so crazy because I didn't have any clothes. I came in a suit. I thought I was gonna leave in a suit, like everything. So everybody's like going crazy about this outfit I had on. Like they think
everybody know about
if
that
you
outfit.
guys only knew the whole day, I feel so uncomfortable. Like, oh my God, I have to wear this to court. And then I'm like FaceTiming people, like, you think this look okay? Like, everybody's like, then everybody loved the outfit. I was
Green
look
one,
okay.
lime.
I was so self-conscious about it. I'm like, I look a mess. I can't believe I have to go. And the day before, I had on the nicest suit, the nicest shoes. Did not see a camera. But I couldn't wear it to court again.
Yeah, well, you know, it's so crazy. I was looking at your Instagram, Kayla, and I was like, look at the drip. Look at the drip.
Yes, Kayla be
You're a good
starting on
dresser.
y'all.
Mhm.
100%. So let's do this because what the judge said when he just came back on the bench, it wasn't very long. It was a few minutes, and a lot of people were kind of asking for some clarification. So what we might do, if I can pull it up, let's just go and hear exactly what the judge's take on it was. And then, you know, you can jump in or we can get your take as well. So let's see what the judge has ordered. But again, guys, somebody write Kayla in the chat. She does not have to go to jail anymore. The judge has released her. She is in Houston now, so she wasn't sweating it too much in the beginning. But let's see what this judge has to say. All right, let's go.
I'm going to take judicial notice of the following timeline.
All right, so let's listen to the timeline.
On Friday, June the 7th, 2024, Mr. Kenneth Copeland was granted an immunity from prosecution pursuant to 24-5-507A, and that will be marked as courts 2. So the transfer will be court 1. His immunity agreement, Mr. Copeland's, will be court 2. Mr. Copeland, who was represented by Mr. Jonathan Melnick and advised of his rights and obligations during the proceedings on Friday, June the 7th, which will be marked as courts 3, the transcript of those proceedings, Mr. Copeland invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege and was held in contempt, and that will be courts 4, Mr. Copeland's order of contempt.
And so just to stop there, he was ordered to be in contempt because the way that he was invoking his Fifth Amendment rights. And so you were there just to make sure that the contempt was relieved. Is that right? Was that your stated or your understood purpose of showing up in the first place?
Yeah, that's correct. And also, I mean, I think that going back to the meeting, initially I thought that's what we were there for. I mean, because I'm going to be honest with you, and even some other attorneys that I talked to, I had never heard, like, everybody is thinking that, you know, there's so many different type of immunities.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're thinking like, oh, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he stated on the record what the immunity was. But this was not something where he, you know, really had a choice in the type of immunity that he was granted based off of their reasonings. And I guess that'll be in the transcript. So I didn't understand what was going on either because, one, I think he also stated that the immunity was granted on Friday.
He did.
Yeah,
so he had just he just didn't know what was going on. It's like, you come to court, here's immunity, now testify. If you plead the fifth, you're going to jail. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And then on top of that, he says that you're granted this immunity, but what he did not talk about was when Lil Woody mentioned or allegedly had mentioned that he had shot Nut. He didn't even talk about that in what we just watched this morning. He didn't mention it at all.
I don't think that was said.
Okay. So that's technically that. It sounds like that was a rumor then.
I don't think that was said.
Okay.
Interesting, because that was a huge thing, and the defense counsel has been super hot about that. But I guess
I don't think that was said.
Okay.
But I think that, you know, as defense attorneys, sometimes we take something, we put our own spin on it. It's our theory.
Yes.
It's our opening statement. It's our soundbite. It doesn't have to be verbatim. Same thing for the state. When they come out, they come out.
100%. So let us keep it going here.
Mr. Melnick informed the court that he was not going to be in attendance of any further proceedings as he would be on leave effective 10 June of 2024. The court informed Mr. Melnick that his leave, or had discussions with him that his leave was not proper and that he needed to be in attendance on Monday, June the 10th of 2024 with Mr. Copeland. Mr. Melnick relayed that attorney Kayla Bumpus would be representing Mr. Copeland.
Shout out to Kayla.
On Monday, June the 10th, before court, Mr. Edward Chamberlain, the court's litigation manager, informed the court that the state wished to have an ex parte meeting with the court. No subject matter of the ex parte meeting was told. The entirety of the ex parte hearing held on the 10th of June of 2024 was taken down by Ms. Christina Weaver, the court's official court reporter. This ex parte hearing was held in chambers starting at 9:10 a.m. Present along with the court were Ms. Kayla Bumpus, attorney or ADA, Ms. Adrian Love. Also present were the DA's investigators, Mr. Long and Mr. Hamilton. The ex parte hearing stood in recess from 9:34 to 10:03 a.m. to await Mr. Copeland's arrival. The ex parte hearing resumed with Mr. Copeland present at 10:03 a.m. Also present were attorney Bumpus, Ms. Hilton, the DA's investigators Long and Hamilton, the court and security personnel, deputies Houston, McPherson, Brown, Sergeant Brown, and Sergeant Hall. The ex parte hearing stood in recess to allow Mr. Copeland to have a private conversation with attorney Bumpus from 10:17 a.m. to 11:28 a.m.
Wow. So Kayla, I don't know if you heard that, but it sounded like the judge just said that they took a break of over an hour to allow you to talk with Woody. Is that how it went down? Did you have about an hour just to talk to him alone?
I don't recall an hour.
See, well, you know, she represented Woody. I don't recall.
Right. I get
what you mean?
I don't recall.
What you mean an hour, Judge? So this is interesting. So he's putting on the record that Kayla and Woody talked for about an hour, and Kayla says, "Listen, that's not my recollection, but okay." So this is interesting. All right, let's keep it going.
Hamilton, the court and security personnel, deputies Houston, McPherson, Brown, Sergeant Brown, and Sergeant Hall. The ex parte hearing stood in recess to allow Mr. Copeland to have a private conversation with attorney Bumpus from 10:17 a.m. to 11:28 a.m. The ex parte
was 10:17 to 11:20 something. So that's over an hour that the judge is saying that you and Woody spoke in private. All right.
The hearing resumed at 11:28 a.m. The ex parte hearing concluded at 11:31 a.m. The court arrived in courtroom 1C at 11:49. The transcript of those proceedings, starting as of 11:49, or when the court presumed that held the proceedings on 10 June in courtroom 1C 2024, that will be marked as courts 5. The proceeding in 1C commenced on the record at 11:52 a.m. A lunch recess was had at 12:51 p.m. The parties returned from lunch, and Mr. Steele informed the court that he had a motion, and that was at 1:46 p.m. In asking then Mr. Steele later that afternoon was held in contempt. However, he was allowed to continue representation of Mr. Williams. The court, in asking Mr. Steele questions of how he received the information that he proffered in open court, was only concerned about the integrity and security of the conversations that were had in chambers, not whether those conversations were the subject of proper ex parte conversations or the sum and substance of what was told him at that time. Jurors were Mr.
And let me jump in right there, because what the judge, let me rewind that just to make sure I caught what the judge is really saying. Hold up.
Those conversations were the subject of proper ex parte conversations or the summons, was only concerned about the integrity and security of the conversations that were had in chambers, not whether those conversations were the subject of proper ex parte conversations or the sum and substance of what was told him at that time.
Okay, so what is he saying right here, guys? He's saying, listen, I was pressing Brian Steele for the name, but I only wanted the name to make sure that the security of my chambers was okay. I didn't want the name to find out, what was said and to track this person down. I just wanted to make sure that everything was secure. Everything was secure. What do you think about that, Kayla?
Why did you pull the cameras in front of the courtroom?
All right. He was really investigating who told this information.
I knew that was going to happen from the beginning. When I reached out to who I decided I wanted to represent me, I knew. I said, I'm going to be on camera.
You were already on game.
I mean, I knew how upset he was. I mean, I don't know if you remember. Well, when it initially happened, he was like, "You got 5 minutes," and he just like storms out, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm not coming back in this."
Oh, so you were in the courtroom when you saw that that exchange?
I saw that, and then Brian, and then he's not even on the bench anymore, and Brian yells, and we know Mr. Copeland admitted to killing that. I'm like,
yes.
And he's like, "Don't take my notes. Don't touch my notepad."
Don't touch my notes. And then it's so funny because I see, I'm in the courtroom the next morning, just pacing in my little green, going back and forth, and Brian walks in, and the first thing I see is those notes with the red writing.
She said, "My little green." I love it.
Yes, and then when the judge walks back, what you said is so funny because when the judge is walking out of the courtroom, Brian's like, "Yeah, we know that Woody said that he killed Nut." I know you were like, "What am I even in?" Because again, you just were there just to make sure that he was testifying, and all of this starts blowing up around you, right? You had no idea.
See in the transcript that I say, even though I am no longer representing him, now this is before he starts testifying, even though I'm no longer representing him, for judicial efficiency and as a professional courtesy, I am going to stay and make sure he makes it through the day. And everybody says, okay. So that's what just made me so mad when I'm going to go ahead and tell you about this. When I keep saying, can I approach? It's because I want to be like, I was not his attorney.
So that's why you
knew, and that's why like everybody's like, what am I telling Simone when I'm like going crazy over there? Is that you need to say something. And if you read my notes, I keep saying you need to say something because everybody knew that you fired happened in chambers. It happened multiple times.
And really?
I chose not because I had to, but just to be nice.
Yeah. So Woody fired you in chambers as well. I know. Did the judge hear when Woody fired you? Was the judge around to know that? Did the judge know that Woody had relieved you from the representation, and he still went along? So when you were asking, you were saying that you were asking for the sidebar to the judge, and the judge did not.
Yes, well, at first he said yes, remember, and then the defense objected to it. But it was pretty much I wanted to be like, we already been, that I wasn't supposed to be here.
Now the judge was fighting really hard to keep you in the case. You wanted out of the case. Woody wanted you out of the case. The defense counsel wanted you out of the case, and the prosecutors wanted you out of the case. Everybody in that courtroom wanted you out of the case except for one man. Why do you think? Why do you think this one man wanted to keep you in?
Well, because like he and it's just so crazy to me because he showed his hand so many times throughout this process. Like you mentioned when I was on here a couple days ago, how all of a sudden does I have to stay to the 25th? Okay, now I got all these people who stand up and tell me I can't keep her here. So now I'm gonna make a show cause hearing for the 25th. I mean, he just was it seemed like he was buying time to try to see what he could do to me. And, even he says something about leave it up to the state bar. Well, I mean, I guess he's going to report me to the bar, and that's fine because he's not the holder of the privilege. Woody is.
Exactly.
So, I mean, do what you got to do, sweetheart, because I know what happened. I say that because it's just so frustrating that you keep messing with me.
Yes, and talk about that too. And we were going to get to that, but that might have went over a lot of people's heads. But us three heard it immediately when he said, "Well, the state bar might have to take care of that." What did you understand that to mean to the explaining this to the layman's in the chat?
I already knew that that was a possibility. I kept asking my attorneys, and I might seem calm now, but I really have been freaking out this whole time. And not
Yeah.
because I thought I did anything wrong, but just who wants to deal with this? And I still have to wake up every day and practice law. And one day I remember telling my clients, like, "Are you watching TV? You messing with me? I'm trying to stay out of jail. Like, leave me alone." Like, and it's it's just unfortunate because I never got this. No, seriously, like you talking about, I don't.
She's like, why y'all keep calling me? I have all this stuff going on.
Right, like you can't be saying, are you on Instagram? Are you in a hole? So I just started telling people, if you don't Google my name, and they're like, I'm so sorry. Like everybody is like, all my clients are like so empathetic right now. They're like, "Hi, Miss Kayla, is everything okay?"
Yes, because you were going through it.
I was going through it because it was just a lot. And like I said, the first night, I literally thought I was going to jail. I kept saying, I want my 20 days straight. I don't want weekend.
Okay, she said, give me mine straight up. I want the 20 raw.
I want my 20 straight. But I had to do those things to keep from really, having an anxiety attack. And, my mom came to court with me the next day. She was worried. Like, everybody was so worried. And it's just because, like I stated previously, anything goes in that courtroom. Yes. So whether I did something wrong or not, anything goes. Because Ashley Merchant articulated in the most I don't know how she could have said it, comprehensible way.
It was very
that
clean.
You cannot hold someone in civil and contempt. Read him the law, and he still pretty much said, "I don't care."
Still did it. You're exactly right. It was basically taking the stance, well, appeal it then if you don't like it.
And then he kept choosing not to grant certificates of immediate review, and so that was more of the shocking part to me, and the part that was alarming is that I don't know what's going to happen. But anyway, back to your question, I had already told my attorneys, because he has stated so many times that I have violated privilege. She. And so I said, well, do you think he's going to report me to the bar? I mean, that's all I can think of is if he can't get it this way.
And let's even break that down. What does it mean to be reported to the bar? What does that mean?
Well, the bar is the organization that governs attorneys. We are self-governing employment, and we have people who hold us accountable for being ethical. And one of the most, I guess, detrimental violations is to violate attorney-client privilege. It could disbar you, which means take away your ability to practice, take away your bar card. And he alleged on national television that I had done that.
And so he had alleged that you had possibly committed a violation for which you could lose your bar card.
Yes.
And when you say bar card, you're talking about the state of Georgia bar card, which gives you a license to practice law.
Yes.
And guys, there's no threat. There's no threat bigger to an attorney than losing that license. Guys, we've invested so much in terms of college, law school,
money.
Yes. We, passing the bar, setting up our own office, all of this. And it comes to a point, whether you've been practicing 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, I'll be honest, you really don't know how to do anything else. You really don't know how to, you don't. This is what you do. And if you lose that license, you cannot do the one thing on earth that you know how to do. And so a threat to that license is taken very seriously. Now, a lot of you, not a lot of you, there will be people who file grievances or bar complaints. Y'all have heard of a bar complaint. A bar complaint is where you are being represented by an attorney. You feel that attorney is doing something wrong. And so you file a complaint with the state bar to say, hey, you need to investigate this. And I'll be honest, most of the time, at least I can speak for the state bar.
Dismiss before they get to my office.
Exactly.
Find somebody to play with, because this.
they are not messing around. They do not take complaints from regular citizens very seriously in general, unless they are alleging something crazy.
Especially money. Money is a big thing.
That happens all the time.
But I'll be honest with you. there are levels. And when the State Bar of Georgia gets a bar complaint that's filed, it's seemingly, from what this judge is saying, maybe he might do it himself, from the chief judge of Fulton County. And the law, well, the office of the State Bar is really right down the street. This is when you hear it, you're like, wait a minute, that's kind of a threat, right? Or what's your take on it?
I mean, you can also file complaints against judges, right?
Oh, there you go. There we go.
Hey, two people play this game. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Right back at you, Judge.
Yes. So let's take a look. Let's continue to hear what this judge is saying. Let's go.
Jurors Jurors entered the courtroom to resume Mr. Copeland's testimony at 3:39 p.m. The jurors were excused and exited the courtroom at 5:56 p.m. Mr. Copeland was excused and exited the courtroom at 5:58 p.m. The court asked Mr. Steele again whether he received ex parte information, and that would be at 5:59 p.m. Mr. Steele's counsel, Ms. Ashley Merchant, and Mr. Alex Susor entered the courtroom. Mr. Steele was held in criminal contempt. That order of that contempt will be marked as Court 6, and the proceedings concluded at 7:41 p.m. The court further takes judicial notice of the following statements proffered by Attorney Steele, Brian Steele, in open court upon information and belief stated to the court, which are still unknown. There are 6 assertions that Mr. Steele proffered in front of the court. Those are contained within the transcript of Courts 5, the proceedings that are held on the 10th of June of 2024 in courtroom 1C, which the court's already said will be part of this order. The first assertion.
So this is what Brian Steele had said. What was
and the transcript bears out exactly what Mr. Steele said. So the court is paraphrasing the 6 assertions that Mr. Steele made. They're more aptly and more eloquently put in the record. The first one involves his concern that supposedly in chambers, this honorable court reporter, court at times, district attorney or district attorneys before the DA's office, as well as investigators, sheriff, and deputies, Mr. Copeland and his counsel met together. None of the defense team, to his knowledge, were present. Second assertion he makes is that Mr. Copeland intended to plead the Fifth Amendment. Third assertion is that Mr. Copeland, as a party, was sworn, and Mr. Steele asserted that this particular conversation was, in fact, a critical stage, and that the defendants had the right to be present. The fifth group of assertions involved Mr. Copeland not going to testify. The fifth group of assertions involved what Ms. Attorney Hilton claimed or said to the witness, to include the court, involving allegations of coercion and witness intimidation, and that his counsel had the right to be present. And the sixth assertion.
And let me stop it right here, because this is very important for what Brian Steele puts forth in his motion. And I just kind of want to get your take on it. And I just want to say from the outset, it's just going to involve a lot of speculation on your part. So if you can't answer it because it's speculative, I understand. But it seems like what Brian Steele is saying is that because there was all this talk to Woody from the judge and the prosecutor about jail, about indefinite incarceration, and Woody changed his mind from not testifying to testifying, Brian Steele makes out the argument that there was some type of a coercive pressure for him to testify. Mm-hmm. While you sat in there for over 2 hours, did you feel that there was a pressure for Woody to testify? Mm-hmm. Wow, she's like, yes. And that did you feel any of that pressure coming from the district attorney's office, who, and it needs to be said, Woody is their star witness, so they absolutely want their star witness to testify. Did you feel that there was a pressure coming from that office to have him testify?
I feel like everybody in the room put some pressure on them. I mean, whether it was legitimate or valid, like I said, everybody just doing their job. And that's what I told them. People just, they're just doing their job. I don't know what the I don't think there was any bad intent, but sometimes things happen. I can't, like you said, I can't say what anyone else was thinking, but I can
Mhm.
say what it looked like. And when if the transcript is the real transcript, you will see. Like I say, the turning point in that meeting was the part you read in the motion about how long he could be held.
Mm. Was there a point in time where you saw Woody kind of change his mind based on something that was said? Was it because of the length of incarceration? Is that what you think might have swayed Woody to testify?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I can't speak for him, but I
Right.
just think that was the turning point in the whole conversation.
Mm. Now, you practice, along with personal injury, you practice criminal defense. And your background speaks very well of you practicing criminal defense because you were on the other side in the beginning and you worked as a prosecutor, as a district attorney, an assistant district attorney in this office, not under Fannie, but in this office in the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
Had you ever seen a case where a judge is pressuring a witness to testify in a trial?
I've never seen this.
Mm. And just as a prosecutor or putting on a prosecutor's hat, how do you feel in general about a judge pressuring a witness to testify?
I mean, I can't. I will be honest and say that in that whole meeting, his role was very very small. He did not have a lot to say, but it's very similar to what's happening in the courtroom. Of more, ain't that right, Judge?
Of more what? I'm sorry.
Like it's like I feel like they're always like, ain't that right? Uh-huh.
So
Yes,
like
the state.
confirmation.
Yeah, kind of.
Mm.
I
Okay.
feel like that's what they do in there, and the state is like, right? You're on our side, kind of. I'm not saying that's
Mm.
what it is, but that's
Hmm.
what it kind of felt like, you know.
Gotcha. It felt like there was some coercive pressure or some pressure to get him to testify.
No, what I'm saying is from the state to the judge, it was more of I'm saying the judge did not say a lot,
Hmm.
but he was there, kind of. His presence was kind of just him being there, just being in custody, being in the judge's chambers is, and on his face.
Yes. Kind of coercive in itself, right? The
Yes.
atmosphere is
The
coercive. That's a
atmosphere.
great
You're in
point.
custody. You're in chains, and you're sitting. And I mean, you probably never been in a judge's chamber. He probably been in jail so many times, court so many times, and that's probably his first time there.
Yes. Oh, so at the actual hearing, he was in chains.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, how much more coercive do you need to be in chains in a judge's chambers where the state is telling you that they could keep you locked up in those same chains indefinitely unless you testify? This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Let's keep it going here.
Witness to include the court involving allegations of coercion and witness intimidation, and that his counsel had the right to be present.
And just quickly, do you think that Woody was intimidated to some extent because of the situation, because of the atmosphere, and because of what was being said in that hearing?
Yeah, I do. I think he was very frustrated too.
Mm, mm. Okay, let's keep it going.
And the sixth assertion that was made in open court was that Mr. Copeland admitted to killing Donovan Thomas.
And we are looking at some attorneys here. I don't know if you can see them, Kayla. The gentleman. Do you know who some of these attorneys are? Can you identify any of them that you know?
Yeah, so we'll start on the second to back row.
Mm-hmm.
That's Gabe Banks.
Okay, so this is Gabe Banks. Now, does Gabe Banks represent you?
Yes, he does.
Okay, so Gabe Banks represents Kayla, and I believe this is the same Gabe, guys, that was involved in the whole Fannie Willis Nathan Wade debacle. I think I don't want to go much into it because I don't, it was a few months ago, so I don't really remember kind of
And he
what?
represented Lucci.
Oh, really? He
Ah,
represented
Hmm.
Lucci. Okay. Yeah, and I believe I don't know if he specifically represented Terrence Bradley, who I don't want to speak on it because now my ideas are fuzzy. But yeah, if you're thinking this is the Gabe, I think this is the same Gabe that was involved in that whole Fannie Willis, Nathan Wade, Terrence Bradley debacle.
Well, Gabe is definitely a lawyer's lawyer and a judge's lawyer too. He represents several judges right now, several lawyers. I mean, he's a very good attorney. He's so smart, and he used to be Adrian Love. He was like the original head of gangs under Mr. Howard.
wow.
I did
Yeah.
not know that. I did not know that. So he also worked for the prosecutors before he went out on his own and starting to get that real money, right?
Right.
Interesting. And then do you know any other of the other remaining 4 attorneys here?
Yeah, that's Kyle.
When you say that's Kyle, which one is Kyle? The gentleman, the white gentleman in the middle here?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And he's brilliant as well. He represented me as well. He had a major playing in a appeal. He's an appeals attorney for sure. I mean, he's a great attorney, period. But they say what makes criminal defense attorneys, and even with Brian Steele, what makes them so sought after, or what gives them their credibility, is when they win appeals. When you can
Mm.
beat a judge is when that gives you your notability. And so he had the case with the Lil Wayne bus shooting, and I think he was able to get something with that overturned.
Wow.
Wow. Okay. And so he also represented you in this particular case?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the black gentleman sitting next to him, do you know who he is?
Yeah, that's Julius Collins. He was my lead attorney on this case.
Okay, so he was your lead attorney, right? All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
And then the 2 people sitting in the front of them, do you know who they are?
Well, I think there's 3. There's Nicole Mormon on the very end. She's on the brown jacket.
Oh, you're right. There
Yeah.
are 3 people. Mm-hmm.
And she's my close friend. She's like the attorney who I call for everything federal. She is like the federal. She goes anywhere federal. She's the federal queen. Like, she's a bomb attorney. I think she represented Dirk too.
Oh, shout out to Lil Dirt.
Mm-hmm.
He goes down in Atlanta, guys. All right.
Right.
And then sitting next to, is there any way you know who might be sitting next to
That's
her?
Kristen, who got up at the end.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. He was
Yeah.
talking to her about conflicts and things like that. She
Well, I
represented
thought that
Gunna
was
before.
interesting too, because
Yeah.
Nicole also represented somebody on the YSL case. So I don't know
Yeah.
why he chose, but I guess maybe it's because Kristen was talking.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was Sergio Kitchens who's Gunna.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And then the gentleman sitting closest to us in the foreground, who is him? Who is he?
I don't know who that is.
Okay. I think he was co-counsel with Ashley Merchant. His name escapes me.
Yeah,
But when Judge Glanville was trying to throw Brian Steele in jail, it was this gentleman and Ashley Merchant who were fighting to keep him out of jail.
Okay.
And they actually won the day, because what the judge wanted to do was kind of the same thing that maybe he might have said or not said to Woody about the indefinite incarceration. They explained, this gentleman right here and Ashley Merchant explained that it could not be an indefinite incarceration, that the most they could do was 20 days. And so that's what the judge did. So they actually came in, and they were a huge help in this case to Brian Steele. So shout out to him. All right. So let's sorry about that. Let's keep it going here. What do we got?
At some point after Mr. Steele was held in contempt by this court in the afternoon of June the 10th, it was brought to the court's attention, not at the court's request, by security personnel, that video footage of what occurred outside courtroom 1C shows the interactions between Ms. Bumpus, Mr. Steele, Mr. Adams, and Mr. Sharp. The court in no way sought.
All right, so he naming names. Hold up now.
You see Attorney Sharp lean in. That's so funny.
He naming names. Let's see what he said again, just real quick. Now he's like, I went and pulled the footage because
So
I
what's
know.
your point? what?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and me and my lawyers are texting during this. I'm like, I know what, and it's like, and I'm also texting Woody too. Like, Woody, like, what I'm gonna do? What I'm gonna say?
Wow. Let's take a look specifically what the judge says about the pulling of the videos.
The afternoon of June the 10th. At some point after Mr. Steele was held in contempt by this court in the afternoon of June the 10th, it was brought to the court's attention, not at the court's request, by security personnel that video footage of what occurred outside courtroom 1C shows the interactions between Ms. Bumpus, Mr. Steele, Mr. Adams, and Mr. Sharp.
Okay, so what the judge just said was, hey guys, I didn't request this information. I didn't tell somebody to go and pull it. Somebody just brought it to me. Somebody brought it to my attention. So it wasn't me, guys. Somebody just went and pulled the footage, but I didn't have anything to do with it. All right, so this is what the judge is saying. And this is the same judge that was so irate, so mad that he couldn't get the name of the mole, but he's not the one who pulled the footage. Somebody else just brought it to him and he didn't even know about it, right? Supposedly. Let's go.
The court in no way sought to investigate any facts of this involving this footage.
Those are
and only considered it for the security and timeline of events that occurred on June the 10th of 2024. Also, in no way did the court consider any of this footage in holding Mr. Steele in contempt. And as I said, mentioned it only for the purposes of considering the security and breach of information that occurred within the court's chambers, not for the whether or not that was truthful or not. Mr. Steele makes.
And before we do this, let me just give a big shout out. Just y'all know who she is. Big shout out to Thinking from Texas, Whitney. Thank you so much, Whitney. What does Whitney say? Great banter today. Lead and AV. Have a safe and happy 4th. Shout out to Miss Bumpus. All right. Houston, Texas representing. So somebody write Whitney in the chat, please, guys. Whitney, a huge supporter. She sponsored whole streams. I always say the stream sponsors the person who leaves the biggest super chat. Shout out to Talk That Law and Miss Whitney. So thank you so much. Let's keep it going here.
Further made three assertions on the 10th of June 2024. One, he asserted that this was, on behalf of Mr. Williams and similar situated individuals, that this was the court held an improper ex parte meeting. Secondly, that Mr. Copeland.
Let me stop it right there. Do you believe, either from the prosecutor side or from the defense side, that this was in fact a quote unquote improper ex parte meeting? And I think you're muted, Kayla.
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah,
I'm reading everybody's comments. I got
lost.
No,
let me go back so we can hear what the judge said.
Mr. Steele makes further made three assertions on the 10th of June 2024. One, he asserted that this was, on behalf of Mr. Williams and similar situated individuals, that this was the court held an improper ex parte meeting.
Okay, so let me stop it right there. Do you believe, as Mr. Brian Steele has asserted, that this was a quote unquote improper ex parte meeting? Do you think that this was a improper meeting?
Well, I think that because he was a sworn in witness as of Friday, I don't think that he was supposed to be in the judge's chambers having a meeting because of the simple fact that he was a sworn in witness who had started to testify.
So you would say that this is an improper ex parte meeting?
Yes.
Yes. All right, let's keep it going here.
Secondly, that Mr. Copeland was a sworn witness, and
this was a
critical stage. And no, Mr. Copeland was a sworn witness. And third, that he argued that this was a critical stage and that he and the others needed to be present at that point in time.
All right, so let me stop it right there. You are a defense attorney now. If you are representing someone in a similar situation, would you consider the ex parte meeting part of this critical stage that they're talking about?
Absolutely.
Can you kind of explain to the people a little bit about why the critical stage, or what is a critical stage, or or why it's kind of important?
Well, a critical stage is kind of just any stage throughout the criminal proceeding where you have certain rights and rights
Mm.
that have to be protected. And I guess what they were saying, the defense attorney, was that, and that's one of the questions that when we were sitting talking is that the attorneys asked themselves among themselves, is this a critical stage?
Oh,
Like
really?
yeah, and I thought that was really interesting when he said it, because I remember, I guess, in preparing their arguments, that's like step one. Is this a critical stage? Because if this is a critical stage, then there are certain things that have to be done. And
Mm.
I think that their biggest thing was, since this was a critical stage, that the defense had a right to be present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's not a critical stage, then maybe he doesn't have a right to be present. And if he
Right.
doesn't have a right to be present, maybe nothing's going on.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
Mm.
kind of like the foundation to some of their arguments.
Yeah, because he came out with like 3 or 4 cases just on that, just a string of cases when he was explaining himself on what a critical stage was. Because Brian was also arguing to have, if he was going to have this in camera, to see if Young Thug can be invited into the room, right? And the judge was like, no. So it was interesting, but he definitely spent some time today talking about that as he was explaining what was going down.
100%. 100%. AV is exactly right. Let's keep it going.
To pursue the sixth. Now, Mr. Copeland's a sworn witness, and third, that he argued that this was a critical stage and that he and the others needed to be present at that point in time to pursue the Sixth Amendment rights of the defendants in this case. As to Mr. Steele's first assertion of whether or not the court held an improper ex parte meeting or hearing, the court is guided by Judicial Code of Conduct 2.9, which I'll take judicial notice of, which in pertinent part, where circumstances require ex parte communications are authorized for scheduling, administrative purposes, or emergencies that do not deal with the substantive matters or issues, provided that the judge reasonably believes that no party will gain any procedural, substantive, or tactical advantage as a result of the ex parte communication. And the judge makes provisions promptly to notify all parties of the substance of the ex parte communication and gives the parties an opportunity to respond. And in this particular circumstance, the transcript of these proceedings was just prepared and is final by my official court reporter, Ms. Weaver. And all counsel will be, as I said, given an opportunity to, as soon as the court finishes entering this order, it will be e-filed, so everyone will have a chance to take a look at it. And
all right, so we are going to get the transcript, and it seems like it's going to be filed in today, guys. It's going to be filed in today. This is so juicy. Let's go.
Use it as they see fit.
And the judge also said that, it can't be that there's this ex parte meeting and then one of the sides gets a benefit or an advantage. Do you think because of this, 2+ hour meeting that the prosecutor got an advantage or a benefit from this meeting?
I mean, they got. I can't say, because like I told even Woody, like, he could have sat in jail for 2 weeks and then decided to testify. I mean, that we don't know what would have happened. I mean, I can't say.
Yeah, but it's clear that the state wanted him to testify, right?
Right.
And then because of this meeting, they got him to testify the same day.
Right. So the only benefit that I can 100% say is that, the timing, they got it right then, but I can't say that he would have never testified.
Right, because you don't know if Woody would have sat in there for the whole 2 years or something like that.
Well, the 2 years was something he made up.
When you say he, who is he?
He just said, can he sit in jail for 2 years? Like, that's something that's why I say we have to go through the transcript, because the 2 years wasn't anything for real.
Oh, that when you say he made up to 2 years, you're talking about Woody made up to 2 years.
Yes.
Woody said, I'll sit here for 2 years.
Yes.
Got it.
Gotcha. And then the judge and the prosecutor was like, 2 years? Where you get that from?
Yes.
Got you. Okay, let's keep it going.
In this particular, and then the last part of 2.9 before the court goes on, if involves in pertinent part, if a judge inadvertently receives unauthorized ex parte communication bearing upon the substance of the matter, the judge shall make provision promptly to notify all parties of the substance of the communication, provide the parties with a reasonable opportunity to respond. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to release the entirety of the transcript to you all to use as you see fit and before any other further examination of Mr. Copeland.
All right, so we're going to get the transcript, guys.
I'll address the issue of the emergency nature of this particular hearing or this particular conference in front of the court. Is that this involves the state's concern as to what Mr. Copeland was in fact told by his counsel, Mr. Melnick, and his understanding of the immunity agreement pursuant to 24-5-507, and that the conversations that were had in the transcript will bear out that no tactical or other advantage or any testimony that was stated during that particular hearing would be anything other than the court and or the state communicating along with Ms. Bumpus, his lawyer, who was there the entire time, his witness's understanding of his immunity agreement. In consideration of this emergency nature, the court has taken into account a couple of cases I'll cite for the record. One of them is United States versus Adams, and that's 785F, threats against the witness is proper. District court must ensure that the conference is carefully conducted so no rights of the defendant are threatened. Presence of the accused. Ex parte conference between judge, prosecutor, and government witness to discuss refusal of witness to testify because of his fear of reprisal was not improper, where substance of the inculpatory testimony was never discussed and the entire conference was transcribed.
All right, so let's stop it right there. What the judge is saying is like, listen, I found a case where a judge, the prosecutors, and a witness were talking in the chambers. And the appeals court said that was okay because none of the witnesses' testimony was brought up in the hearing. So not the sum and substance of what he was going to say on the stand was brought up in the ex parte meeting. And I know this meeting was over 2 hours, and I think your advice about waiting until the transcript comes out, Kayla, I think is spot on, because that's really going to help everybody and clear. But just as you sit here today, do you remember if any of what Woody was going to testify to, if that was brought up in the meeting or not?
I can't.
And if you don't remember, that's fine. I'm not trying to.
I mean, he made several. I want to see what the transcript says, and from there, I'll fill in the blanks if that's fair. Because if there is an hour missing, then I have something to say for sure.
Okay, I got you.
But also, I want to say that one thing we may have missed this part, but I actually got to go to court in a second. But I do want to say this. I never felt like Woody was threatened or felt like he was threatened or that I didn't understand that part because I just don't understand where that came from.
Threatened? How so? What do you mean threatened?
He says that's why it was an emergency because he was not safe.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we've gotten to that part yet.
Okay,
Maybe we'll get to it. But here's the thing. I know you got to go to court. I know how that is myself. So I want you to be able to make it there. Before we do that, can you just give us your final thoughts on this before you go? Your final thoughts on what the judge ruled today, how that makes you feel, and kind of what you're thinking about this situation now with the help of this new information that we've gotten.
I just think that, my final opinion will come when I see how that transcript comes out. Because that will be really the integrity of the court. And I'm very interested to see, because the times I can't say that they're incorrect because I wasn't sitting, waiting, looking at the time, but I know how long I was in there and I know what happened while I was in there. And also I think that, there were some, I guess, nudges for him to dismiss this. I don't think this is something he did on his own accord or of his own. I don't think
you're talking about Judge Glanville?
Yes. I don't think he just woke up and decided. I think he was even torn to the point where, we had this hearing for how long, how many days?
Yeah.
And then you have us sitting. That's why I didn't come, because I would have been so upset. Because then
you had to come in for July 3rd, and he's like, "Oh well, we're canceling it today."
Yeah.
No, but even today, you know how you have these people just sitting in a courtroom, and you're still trying to figure out what you're gonna do. Why? You had a whole weekend,
Right.
and you
Yeah.
know, and I just think it's because he realizes that it's not right, and he doesn't know how to fix it.
He's kind of stuck in it, huh?
And I don't think he thought. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not trying to. I'm gonna say this in the most humble way possible. I don't think he thought that I was gonna lawyer up. I think he thought he was gonna bully me. And I think all of my lawyers are great, and I think they all have, you know, different things that they brought to the table. But you know, one person who I knew he wasn't gonna play with was Gabe, and because and you know, and that's what Gabe brought to the table for me. He's very smart, but Gabe was a prosecutor. He knows about the ex parte situations as a prosecutor, and what can, you know, that's what I think was really important to me initially when, you know, I'm a baby lawyer compared to most of these people. They've been practicing as long as I've been alive, you know, definitely double the amount that I've been practicing. But so you don't know everything. And so initially I was scared. Like, did I do something wrong? I mean, because how he acted, I was scared. It's not that I thought I did anything wrong. It's just like, because of how angry and upset he was, I was confused. And, you know, so I spent days, you know, constantly calling him like, well, what if this happened? Or what is this? You know, what could happen?
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like I said, anything goes in there.
Anything goes. And he'll just say, listen, I'm going to put you in jail for 20 days straight, and then you can appeal it later. But
Yeah.
you the 20 days, you know?
Right.
That is exactly right.
But
All
I
right.
also thought it was interesting that why would you continue? I think the show call should have never, it should have just, I was shocked when he changed the date instead of just letting it go the first time.
Yeah.
Because if the Supreme Court already stayed Brian Steele and it's the same matter, what do you think is going to happen even if you do that to me? And it's just like, do you just want to keep being embarrassed by the Supreme Court, or what are you doing?
Yes, you're
a good
exactly
point.
right.
That's a
And
good
to your point, when the Supreme Court came down, I think everybody sensed a huge change in his demeanor. You know, he was much more subdued, more subtle. He wasn't getting crunk like he was before.
Right.
So I think you're exactly right. All right, guys, listen, if you are in these car accidents down here on 285, I-85, 75, I-20, right? Or if you get jammed up and the police are trying to put handcuffs on you, please call Miss Kayla. If you're anywhere around Atlanta or the Houston area, Kayla, tell people where they can contact you most easily.
Oh, yes.
If you got
You
your
can.
social medias.
Yeah, you can go on my Instagram. I've been trying to respond to people's DMs. It's so many. But yeah, and once you go to my Instagram, you definitely, my phone number and everything is on there. And I guess you can put my Instagram in the
I absolutely will. And what is your Instagram name?
Bless Squire.
Bless Squire. Excellent. So we are going to let Kayla go to court. Somebody write Kayla in the chat. Thank you so much. You are really, there's so many heroes coming out of this case, so many. And you are absolutely one of them. And you really showed the judge kind of what the deal was. And I know it was looking real sketch, but you have finally won. You have made this judge kind of go back on his own word. The judge had to eat his hat. So somebody shout out Miss Kayla Bumpus.
But I might still have a battle with the bar now.
No, they're gonna rip it up like they're gonna be like, oh, Judge Glanville, we definitely ripping this up. Definitely ripping this up. Please come back when the transcript is filed because we want to go through it and kind of get your take on it. And I appreciate your stance of kind of waiting until the transcript comes out, because that's going to have everything exactly word for word in this meeting that was over 2 hours. So please, guys, go to Miss Kayla's Instagram, give her a subscription or a follow over there, whatever they do over there on Instagram. I'm not really big over there, but follow her. And especially if you get in any type of legal trouble, call her up. She will absolutely take care of you. One of the heroes of this crazy case down here in Atlanta, Georgia. So thank you so much, Miss Kayla, for coming through. And we look for you to come back when the transcript hits. All right.
Okay, just let me know.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Miss Kayla.
Thank you.
All right. Shout out to Kayla Bumpus one more time.
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!